Hey everyone, welcome back to Scale Smarter. I am Ali Taylor from Wisdom and Wayfinder, joined by my co-host Frank Maiorana from JustWorks. Frank, how's it going today?
It's going great. How are you, Ali?
I'm good. I saw a little bit of more snow this morning, but looks like it's not sticking or adding to what we got yesterday. So
It's the last thing we need, but
yeah,
it is what it is.
yeah, but it's all good. So we're here today with Mike Zakrzewski. I practice.
Love it.
Who's the co-founder and chief data scientist at FourZeroNine Solutions. Michael, welcome to Scale Smarter.
Thank you, Ali. Excited to be here today.
Yeah, we're excited to have you as well. So, Michael, here's what we're seeing with a lot of business owners that Frank and I tend to come across. They've got a lot of data that's just like piling up, coming out of their ears. You know, for anything from CRM reports, spreadsheets, time tracking, financial dashboards. But when you kind of ask them what those numbers are telling them about their business, they really don't have any idea. They're not sure like how to answer that question. They're either completely overwhelmed with information or they're just not using it to the best of their ability. So we're really happy to have you on to talk more about what it is that you do. And I'll just kind of let you take it from there.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you, Ali. So I'm Mike Zakrzewski, co-founder at FourZeroNine Solutions. First, want to talk a little bit about the name of the company. You know, what the heck is 409? So I'm sure Frank and Ali, you've seen it. You've gone to a website before and gotten a 404 error, not found in that. So 409 is a similar error code that I hope you never see that represents an outdated or unauthorized connection to a database. So 409 Solutions is our way of saying we're bringing you up to date with the current and best data practices. So all that being said, we serve our clients as their outsourced data team, developing dashboards, custom reporting, custom applications, integrations, automations, as well as AI-based projects. So you can really think anytime data is moving from one place to another or being analyzed, you know, getting reports and answers out of it, that's where we come in and we assist our clients.
It's awesome.
So when you where do you typically see, right? Because everyone's a little bit different, right, where they keep their information. Like you see, some folks they have all spreadsheets. Some folks they'll have a CRM here, they'll have accounting software. So I guess when you sit down and you talk to somebody, what's kind of like your first way of kind of wrapping your hands around all of their information?
Yeah, great question there, Frank. So really the first step for me is to understand the prospect or the client themselves and what they really care about. Like, as you mentioned, every business is different. Every business has different platforms, different data collection processes. So before I even get into that, before I want to find out that you have Salesforce, you have Bill.com, you have QuickBooks, etc., I first want to find out what's important to you and what really drives your business. So, you know, obviously revenue is a big component of that always, but I want to figure out, okay, how are you making money, right? What are your different industries or your different services or products that you offer? And then how are you collecting information for those? So for a service-based industry, that would be the timesheets, right? Timesheets and billing. For a product sales, it would be their Shopify store or wherever it is that they're doing their commerce. So that's where we would start. And we would try to figure out how to unlock the insights and answers from that system based on that first initial discussion on what they actually care about and what they want to get out of their data.
I remember. So what are the most common? Because you probably hear some repeatable questions, and which is cool. Like when you and I first chatted, and we've known each other for a couple of years now. You talked about kind of the fact that you get to learn so much about a business. You get to really dive in and understand like what are they all about? How do they make money? But there's probably some common questions, just like in my industry, just like with Ali as well, that you hear that they want answered. What are those for you guys?
Oh yeah. So the thing that I look out for the most when I'm meeting individuals, potential prospects, is I listen for two key things, and that is I think and I feel in regards to a business. So I think we're doing really well this year. I feel like sales are up. Now, those are great feelings to have, but what's the truth behind it, right? And every business owner has that gut feeling, that intuition on if things are going well or not so well. But what we're doing is we're coming in to either back up those gut feelings or in some cases, unfortunately, refute them with the actual fact. Because numbers don't lie, right? So we're uncovering the details about their business to bring those, say, gut feelings and turn them into facts and real impactful decisions.
Yeah. How do you, so I know like one of the things that I've come across when I talk to businesses, especially, like you said, those I think and I feel statements, right? They feel like something might be, going better than it actually is, because they might be looking at maybe the wrong set of numbers, or pulling data from, the data might be incomplete in some way. Like how do you go about helping them understand that, maybe what they're looking at isn't correct, or it's inaccurate, or it's just incomplete?
Yeah, so it's all about consistency there. And I actually have a semi-recent client example of this. So I was working with a professional services firm that cared a lot about their numbers. And before working with us, they had their admin team pulling reports and sending them out, right? So they had multiple admin people sending reports out to the partner group. And they were the same reports. We have our receivables, we have our billings, we have our client capacity, our staff capacity, all these great metrics, but nobody was aligned on their numbers. And the reason is that the different administrators and the different partners were pulling reports, but they were using different criteria for their reports. So one would say, oh, my billings are doing great. Other one would say, my billings aren't doing so great. But one is on transaction date and the other is on bill date. So it's showing completely different skewed numbers, even though they think they're looking at so to your point there, it is, just super important that everyone is consistent and aligned with what they're looking at and also how they're entering the data.
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely seen like a breakdown in that with some businesses in terms of being consistent with that. That's where the SOPs, that's where the things that I do kind of come into play, in terms of like, this is the data that we're going to be tracking. We're measuring against these particular KPIs. It has to be entered in the same way every time, so that we have that consistent track record or historical data to go along to be able to make those assumptions, and be able to see like what's not, where the anomalies might be coming from, where there might be a dip that we're not expecting, etc.
Yeah, and you brought up a great thing, historical data, right? So whenever we're talking with a new customer, we want them to dream big, and we want to try to solve those dreams, best we can with their data, but not always that historical data isn't always there to be able to build that out, for the past. But whenever we run into that, we say, okay, we're going to start now, and we're going to start tracking this, this, and this, and we're going to look going forward with those data points. And then at a later date, we can actually go back and update the historicals as well. This way we have a full picture for whatever period it is that we want to look at.
Yeah.
How has AI played a role in analyzing the data? So you get this information out, now you're like, all right, now I can do something with it. So.
Yes, the hot topic, AI, right? And really, I use it daily. I find that it's very, very helpful for when coding, reviewing code and documenting code. And I really find for me that it's not, as an analyst, I'm not going to it and say, hey, do this. Instead, I build out a framework. I say, this is the code I want to write, and say I have to write thousands of lines. And I'll write the first couple hundred, and I'll say, okay, continue on this path. Is it always perfect? No. I would say gets me about 70% of the way there in most cases, but that 70% is a lot better than 0%, right? So it is good at least building a framework and allowing me to come in and kind of finish up and clean up everything. And then on the flip side, we're finding a lot of AI applications for our clients. So everyone wants to integrate AI, and they want to build it into their workflows, into their processes to make them more efficient. But it is a scary thing. It has to be set up in the correct way. So your information and potentially your client's confidential information is not going out to the World Wide Web. That's a scary thing. So what we've done for a lot of our clients is we've built in, their own AI environments that are locked into just, and we've been able to develop workflows and custom applications based on that. So, a good recent win in that space for us is a document processing tool that we created for one of our professional services clients. Long story short, I'm not going to go too far into the details, but they had thousands upon thousands of paper documents that they needed to analyze and make action based on them within a very short time frame. And our client came to us and said, hey, we have this problem. We're finding that our paralegals are taking 20, 30, 40 minutes per document to process them. And they had thousands of them. So you could do the math there. That's a lot of time and money spent just processing documents. So they asked us, and they were a reporting client that brought this problem to us. But they essentially asked, is there a better way, a more efficient way that we can do this? So what we did is we worked with a company to scan in all of the physical documents electronically. So we had PDFs. And then from there, we developed an AI model that actually reads the documents, highlights the important information, pulls it out to a database, does some checking against the data, and then we built a front-end application that has all of the relevant information and a magnifying glass. So they just check it, make sure that it's good, and then they click a button and it processes the document. So we went from 30 to 40 minutes per to about 5 to 10. So a major win for that client.
A little bit of a difference. Awesome.
Yes.
Their payroll is breathing so much easier now.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's I like that, because that's the way that I like to use AI, right? Like, I know I went on a little bit of a rant last week with Faye when we were here about, the way that some people use AI. It's like, but when you train it on historical, again, going back to that word, historical data, things that you've already created, and you're using it, training it on what you've already made, as opposed to pulling from trillions of data points. That's an average of all these different companies and different people, right? But it's unique to you. I think that's a much more efficient and effective way to use AI, as opposed to just, give me a marketing plan or give me a sales plan. That's the average of what's out in the public, and you really don't have the expertise or the knowledge to know if it's accurate or not. Like when you said, like, I knew that this got me to 70%, the average person isn't going to know what 70% is or what it looks like. They're just going to assume that that's the thing to go with and kind of just publish from there.
Oh yeah, there's the common term you hear a lot now, Ali, vibe coding. It is all over the place. People are making apps, all kinds of crazy stuff, but without the actual knowledge of what is going on in that code, it's difficult to push something like that to production or actually use it. There's been a lot of data security concerns around people doing that, which is crazy thing, but it's a good way to learn. Yeah. At the same time, you have to make sure you're being very tight on what is actually going on and where, because you don't want to be exposing API keys or anything that is confidential to the web.
Yeah, there's potential for I think Faye had talked about it last time in terms of like your intellectual property, right? Being able to upload those things to AI. And is there an opportunity for, some of that to get scraped or used in somebody else's documents? You never know.
Yeah, and back to just the AI model for, I would say, our clients. It's really, a big part of what we do. It's not only the reporting, but the data warehousing. So we'll build the front end reports that everyone interacts with, but we'll also develop the back end, where we're extracting the data from the various different sources and we're modeling it in a way that we can actually connect an AI model to it. So the AI will be able to read the correct information about the company itself and be able to produce answers on different things that it's noticing within the data itself.
So Mike, I'm happy you bring that up. So 409, like, it's not just about project work. It's about kind of an ongoing relationship. So could you kind of just talk a little bit more about because I think a lot of folks don't even know your industry, right? Like, I was so excited to bring you on because I think a lot of people are like, a data scientist, like, why would I, like, what's that all about? And like, all right, the way you can help. So kind of talk a little about how 409 works with their clients and beginning to continues.
Absolutely. So we pride ourselves on being an outsourced data team and a service, not a product. So yes, we create awesome apps and dashboards and integrations, but we'll never be the company that will say, here's your dashboard, go have fun. Instead, we want to be that outsourced data team that's there to grow with a client as their needs change. So what business A needed in the beginning of 2025 is never going to be the same as what they need in 2026, because things change, right? You add more staff, maybe you add a service line, maybe you're doing something a little different. And with that comes more data and more data points to be analyzed and added to the big picture. Now, that being said, I find that it is very, very important to not have data overwhelm right in the beginning. So,
Yeah.
this company could have a million different data points and different things that we can build and show and all of that. But we really, really like to start small with maybe 5 or 6 key data points that really drive the business. So we'll say, here's your revenue, here's your expense, cost of goods sold, that kind of thing. And we'll dive into the details on those to find out where the next steps are and what is really, really important to drill down to the lowest level of detail.
I love that. And it actually brings me kind of to a question that I hear all the time, right? In our world of HR and payroll and all that stuff. Usually the human capital analytics that you usually hear most are like turnover, hire, that nature. But probably a question that Ali gets all the time is like, all right, you want to grow. How many people do I need to hire? Doesn't make sense.
Mm.
Is it actually profitable to hire? So how do you start helping business owners in making those decisions? And like, does hiring make sense? Doesn't.
And so projections is a huge part of what we do. It's not only looking at the historicals and what happened, but it's about estimating on what is going to happen. This way we can make decisions on things like staffing and expenses, other items like that. But for that analysis, it's very, very important to get the historicals 100% accurate. So that usually involves a lot of data cleanup, going in and making sure that things, we'll say for the past year, are set up in a way that we can actually start to look forward. So that's always, I would say, a part of phase 1 and phase 2 of our projects is getting the historicals 100% across all platforms and departments and different categories of the business. And then from there, we can start looking forward and doing things exactly like you said, Frank. Determine our capacity and look at our pipeline and see, are we going to be able to handle, all of these prospects that are coming in? If we were to close these 10 prospects next month, we have the capacity internally to handle those 10 new projects along with our existing clients.
And you probably could understand the profitability of your previous hires and how quickly it took them to become revenue generating and those type of things. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's always, a learning phase, right? Before a new employee really starts producing. And that varies based on company. So very, very important to look at that as well.
And I would think, and Ali, you can probably, I think most business owners don't know that. Like they probably don't have any idea on what that number is, even though they should. Right?
No. One of the things that I always recommend is there's a company called Robert Half International. They kind of like provide, some not outsourced work, but if you need someone like a temporary hire or whatnot. But they publish a really great salary guide for different areas, different industries, different types of positions within a company. And there's an adjustment of the salary based on like where you're located and whatnot. So I usually recommend that as something to think about in terms of, okay, if you want to hire, let's say you want to bring on a project manager, what is it going to cost you? What do you need to bring in revenue wise? Or what is it going to add to your payroll to bring this person on? And to start filling in that in your revenue now, right? So you can have that space and sort of ramp up, as opposed to you hire them and it's like, oh crap, now I go to sell or raise my prices unexpectedly on my clients. So that they can, they want to have that plan in place. But I like what you do, Mike, in terms of, we have this historical data. We can take these projections to sort of figure out, because maybe you can hire 2 people. Maybe you can actually hire more than you were thinking, or, maybe you have more than enough revenue or reserves that in your business to be able to make those types of decisions. But you can't make any decision unless you have good data and information to choose from.
Yes, no, absolutely. And to that same note, on the flip side, we found with working with a couple of clients that think they need to hire, we end up finding out that they don't necessarily have to. And instead, it's a shift of responsibilities and projects. So I'll use professional service accounting as an example of this. There are kind of levels to accountants. You have your brand new accountant all the way up to your seasoned accountant who's been doing it for 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
And their capabilities are different on what projects and which clients they can work on. So with one of our clients, we actually found that a lot of their most senior staff members were doing tasks that they shouldn't have been working on, that were kind of the really simple, low-hanging tasks, but they were doing a ton of them. So that adds up over the course of the busy season.
Yep.
So we actually created a staffing matrix that assigned levels to the different projects based on historical time and complexity. And we assigned levels to the staff members based on their experience and what they've done in the past. And we were able to shift responsibilities across the team. So the newest members and the youngest accountants were working on those easier tasks. And then the more senior were taking on the harder ones, with the younger staff members assisting at times. This way they could sort of level up their experience. So with that company, we actually found that we didn't need to add staff at all. And it was really just a reallocation of responsibility.
Oh, that's a perfect opportunity for me to refer you to clients, because that's literally what I do with my decision delegation, framework, in terms of, you're spending all this time getting involved in all these different decisions. Let's just put some guardrails in place in terms of, your junior members, your newer team members, in terms of what decisions they're allowed to make, which ones they have to check in with you on, and which are solely the domain of the business owner. But having that type of framework and application to be able to, organize all that, that's awesome. Yeah.
And it's not all about just the organization and doing it once, but it's tracking it over time as well.
Yeah.
So once you get the new clients, you have to see, okay, where is this going to fit in our model, and where are they going to go, and who they're going to be assigned to? And we actually have a reporting page that shows that exactly. Here's the new one. This is what we think it should be. Plug it in, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. Do you have an example of what that looks like? I just want to show our audience to get a picture of it, if you have it.
That exact one, I do not have a sample prepared of. But I could walk through, a different sample. I think could be valuable for the audience.
That'd be awesome.
Pull up my screen. How's that? The screen's up?
Yep, that's awesome.
So this is a little case study I wanted to take you guys through today. This is one of our clients in the manufacturing and distribution space. So this client came to us because they were growing, and they were growing rapidly. They went from a one location, one state business to a multi-location, 6-state business over a very short period of time. And with that, the business owner wanted something that he could see, call it a bird's eye view of the business as a whole, while also allowing to drill into the specific regions that they do business in. So right now we're on the very high level sales versus expense page. And across the top here, we have sales all the way to profit and profit percent, with some visuals to go along with it. Month over month sales versus expense, profit and profit percent. But what's impactful about this one is if I was to click on Massachusetts here, it will actually filter it down. And now we're just looking at our Massachusetts business and how we're performing in that geography. So it allows you to quickly see, this is how we're doing as a whole, and this is how we're doing in that specific region.
Nice.
This is a high-level page, but we do dive into a little more detail here. So we have a sales summary. So this is manufacturing distribution. They handle all their inventory as well as the outbound sales. So this is a list of all the individuals who work for business in the sales space. We have a month-over-month sales total, and then a map visual. Darker the color, higher the sales. The lighter the color, the less. But here we have the same functionality. If I was to click on Massachusetts, you'll notice we zoom in, and we can now see the specific individuals who sold in that geography. And then furthermore, jump into the next one. It is the less fun side, but still very important. This is the expense summary. So same functionality. We have payroll, and we can see the detail there of who it went to. We have the month-over-month expenses as well as the map visual. But with the same functionality, if I click on Massachusetts here, we can now see the specific expenses allocated to that region.
And does it work the same way that the darker the color, the more money you're spending in that
Exactly.
state? Okay.
Yep. And then if we hover over it, we can actually see the specific number in detail there as well.
Yeah.
And then, of course, being a product sales company, it's important to know what products are we selling and where are they being sold. So here we have our sales by product and region. And here is all of the products that they sell, the dollar amount in sales and the quantity of sales as well. But with the same function, if I click on Massachusetts, we can now see what products are sold there. But really my favorite functionality of this page is actually seeing the detail on a product itself. So if I click on this product 57, it'll filter the rest of the page. And we can now see that 52% of our sales for that product have been in Connecticut. Or we can see the distribution on the map visual as well.
Oh, wow.
Do you have the ability, Mike, to, because I can see this tool and like your information being awesome for executives and certain people within organizations. Do you have the ability of limiting security access, saying you're able to see these reports with this information, but you're not able to see this?
Oh, absolutely. I'm actually going to jump forward to our next sample here. Perfect segue, Frank.
And not planned. Not
Yes,
planned.
not planned at all.
That's just a real question.
Yes.
He's just that good.
Yes, he is.
Oh, geez.
So what I have up here is actually another sample from the same client. So that business owner really liked that sales summary page that we showed, with the map and all of the individuals in the sales. And he wanted to start sharing that information with his team. So he actually went out and he bought his team iPads, connected up through like Verizon or AT&T, one of those, so they can now have a dashboard on the go. So we built them this dashboard. We call it the sales dashboard. And right now I have it pre-filtered to salesperson 2. But how this report works is based on who's logging into it, it pre-filters the information to show you only their information. So if I'm salesperson 2, I'm logging in. This is what I'm seeing, and it is only my information and only my customers and etc. And with this as well, they have a sales management team. So those individuals can log in and see their information as well as those that they manage, just to get a better feel for what's going on with their team. But how this report works is we're just showing them the high-level information that's going to drive their sales, right? So we have their month-over-month sales with some detail here. We have a progress towards their quota, which is the big driver. Obviously, you want to hit your quota and get your bonus.
Mhm.
We have the percent and the sales needed to reach the quota. So this salesperson too was crushing it in this period and actually beat their sales quota by about $200,000. And then down here, we just have a little detail. So it is sort of a historical analysis that shows us each customer, what they sold to them in quote this year, because we're looking at 24, what they sold last year and what they sold 2 years ago, as well as this month and this week. So this has become very valuable to them because they can kind of scan through and see their customer list and say, oh, this customer too, we sold about $14,000 worth of product to them in 22, but nothing in 23 and 24. I wonder if they found a new provider, maybe somebody that I want to reach out to see if we can start working together again.
Mike, not to put you on the spot and not sharing the person's name, but you shared a story. You shared 2 really cool stories with me a while back. One was with a owner of a bunch of chain restaurants, and he leveraged, and you were talking about how he leveraged traffic in those areas as well as when he was trying to decide what to, which ones to keep, which ones to invest more in. Could you talk a little bit about that? Because that was kind of some other unique data that you were able to leverage in order to help them make a decision.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that was a really fun project. So we worked with a individual who owned a number of chain locations, like a chain restaurant. And I guess there were about 20 of them, were set up on individual QuickBooks accounts. So there was no really good way to consolidate and look at everything all at once without pulling 20 spreadsheets, putting them together and trying to build a pivot table and all that crazy stuff. So we actually worked with this individual's accountant, and I do have a sample prepared for this, to create a dashboard to help this business owner really understand what was going on, where, why, and how. So first, there's 2 tabs to this one, and this one is more of the accountant view, I would call it. So it is a consolidated profit and loss statement. And for every single company, we have their year-to-date value, their prior year-to-date value, the percent change, percent of revenue, and prior year percent of revenue. So it is a lot of data points. But what's valuable is, we can look at just company 1, or we can scan all the way to the right and see the grand totals for the business. So now we have an idea of how we're performing overall. So that was step 1, is just, okay, well, what do we have, right? And we can split it by various regions and things like that. But the next step after that was like, okay, now that we have this information, what do we do with it? So we created a secondary page, and this is the top performers page. So it's really a scoreboard in my eyes, where on the left we have top and bottom sales by location, top and bottom expenses by location, and of course, the most important, top and bottom profitability by location. So it kind of shows you what's doing well, what's not doing so well. And then we also added a map visual to go along with it. So you can kind of see the regions and where things are going well and not so well. And then looking at this map, the bigger the circle, the more profitable they are, the smaller the circle, the less. And you'll notice where the more profitable ones are. It's the ones that are close to New York City, that are likely getting a lot of commuter traffic with people going to work in the morning. So we looked at this, and the business owner wanted to make decisions based on it, right? Okay, what do I do with this? Is it good to keep these open? Should I maybe close some, open others? And for the business itself, they pay a flat rate per location to the higher overall organization. So, the less profitable ones really weren't worth it. So what we did is we wanted to take this a step further with the map, and we actually did a traffic analysis to look at Google Maps or Apple Maps data to see where that traffic was in the morning. And with that, we made our recommendations on which ones should be closed and where potential new locations should be open.
That's so cool. There's so many different ideas of how you can use that information. I'm just thinking, if you're a commercial, and I don't know how this would work, but if I were a commercial real estate agent and I wanted to sell, try to entice people to come in and lease, part of my space, having access to information like this, I think would be a huge benefit to be able to say, yeah, we get this much traffic. The last business that was in this location, this is what they were, what they were pulling in because, and it was this type of business, right? Mm-hmm. Being able to build a profile of what works best in which locations and why, and all those different things.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's important to understand the commuters or just the foot traffic that is around any given business. And there are data points out there that are available for it. Either it's looking at the specific traffic, or I know a lot of organizations actually track foot traffic in and out of their physical locations, just based on a little reader that is by the front door. So I find that very, very interesting as well.
But Mike, what I love about that is the guy started with a question: which business should I close? Which location should I close? And he was like, "Great, I can leverage Mike because he can bring all this QuickBook information together." But that's not what he like. But then you took it a step further. Now you actually truly have an understanding of, what's the best solution. So kind of going above and beyond kind of the initial question, which is awesome. You had another example, dealing with an athletic department.
Oh yes.
Oh so yeah.
Please share it. Please share that. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. So I am. I'm a former football player, so I played football at Division II East Stroudsburg in Pennsylvania, and always had a knack for data. But East Stroudsburg actually invested in some technology after my tenure was done there. What they did is they purchased a system called the Catapult. So you might have seen it on NFL players. They wear it's kind of like a sports bra. It says Catapult on it. And what it is a GPS tracking unit that all the players wear for practices, games, workouts, etc. And it spits out, thinking back to the data set, probably 100 columns worth of data per second per player. So it is GPS, here's your coordinates. This is the effort that the player was putting in at this moment. This is their speed. This is their acceleration, deceleration, all kinds of stuff. And, I was talking with the head football coach and head strength coach of East Stroudsburg about this. And they came to me and they said, we love it. We want to use this, but it's overwhelming for us. There's so many data points that essentially what we're getting out of it now is Ali ran fast on Tuesday, and that's all we're doing, and it was rather difficult for them to, really get insights out of it. And I do have permission to actually show the production version of this report. So I'm going to pull that up so we can take a look at it. But I love this analogy for, this project in comparison to our client base, right? Yeah. So we're working with Division II East Stroudsburg to pull these numbers together. If you look at your Penn States, your Rutgers, your Michigan, they have a team of analysts that are working internally to develop reports like this on all of their different data points, either on the field or with workouts. But the smaller guys, the Division 1, Division 2, or AA, Division 3, doesn't necessarily make sense for them to hire a team internally to run the analytics. So that's where we come in, and we help them and build the reports. And that is the same parallel to our business clients. The Fortune 500 companies, they have a team of analysts like me that are working on the data and building reports for the executives. But the smaller to mid-sized companies, it usually doesn't make sense to hire a data team internally. So that's where we come in and we provide that same great service at the fraction of the cost of even hiring one person.
Yeah, we got to get the Giants. If anybody knows Harbaugh, we need you to help him out for this season.
Oh, I'm so excited for that, though. I am a Giants season ticket holder, and I am so excited for this upcoming season.
Nice. I'm a blanket holder. That's back there. But
cautiously optimistic. That's what it is. We'll see what happens.
But yeah, to further that point. So what are the size businesses that would make the most sense in terms of referring business to you, or somebody who's watching this and might want to contact you? What type of business that works best? Size. What are they trying to accomplish? Yeah.
So we've worked with companies across many industries. So we found professional services is typically a good space for us. So accountants, lawyers, PR marketing firms, companies where time is money, because there's a lot we can do with that analytically. Like I touched on earlier with capacity, figuring out how much work we can really handle, figuring out profitability. Is your staff profitable? Are your clients profitable? There's a lot we do there, as well as the typical billings, receivables, et cetera reports that most partners in those kind of companies would be used to seeing. But we also have done a lot of work in the nonprofit space. So just preparing quarterly, monthly reports for them to share with the board, and just tracking things over time to ensure we're hitting our goals. We've worked a good amount in healthcare, so doctors, dentists, orthopedic surgeons, veterinary clinics. For those type of companies, it's typically better to work with the ones that have multiple practitioners or potentially multiple locations, because then, similar to the example I showed earlier, we can drill into specifics and then also get the high-level overarching view of the company. Manufacturing and distribution is a good space for us. I know we went through that sample. So it's all about figuring out what product we have available to sell, what we are selling, and just how we're performing overall. So really, industry-wise, it could be anything. And then football, of course, it is another space. So if there's data, we can work with it. And I would say business size, it is that small to mid-sized business. Now, we don't want to pinhole ourselves into a certain revenue target or anything like that, but it's really the company that has a need for it. Either they're drowning in spreadsheets that they're maintaining and trying to get insights out of, or they don't have any sort of reporting structure and need a full warehouse, application, whatever it might be. Just they need help getting their information organized so they can get real insights out of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you said nonprofits. I think that's also really important because they often, need to report back to the government in terms of, this is what we brought in, this is what we used it for, this is, we're requesting more funding for this, or we're fundraising for that. Being able to use that information and have accurate information. I've often found that some nonprofits, depending on their size, are typically working with like volunteer staff, and so they don't really have the type of access to expertise that they need to be able to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
I do have the football sample up if you wanted to take a look at that quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
There. So I did pull up just the sample version of it for now, but I would be happy to walk anyone through the actual version at a later date. But let's take a look here. So this is a small snippet of what we've done for them. But I really like this page because it is a just summary of what's going on. So here I have selected the 2023 season with athlete number 1 as our data here. So here we can see for this athlete a week over week summary for the data point we're looking at. So we're looking at top speed for the player. And we can see practice 1, they hit 17.5. Practice 2, they hit 15.4. And then this one, they hit 19.2 actually. So it shows you, and actually what I can do here is I can bring in the games as well. Good thing to note here is they have their practices segmented based on how many days away from game day they are. So -4 is your Monday practice, -3 is Tuesday, et cetera, all the way to the game. But I love this page because it shows this line in the middle, right? And I'll give a shout out to Coach Twilliger at East Stroudsburg now. One of his key sayings always was to be above the line. So anything that you're doing, you want to be, over the top, as good as you can, which is in his eyes above the line. So I put this line here as the average for the individual across all the data that we have for them. So this allows you to show, were they above their average or below their average on any given day. And then here we have the detail of each practice, what they did, and then what their average usually is and how they performed against it. And this is top speed, but we have a ton of different data points here. You can see as I click through it, these are just all the important pieces that kind of build to the athlete and what's important for them for the given day.
That's awesome.
So are you able to put in also like I guess you are if they have access to it, right? If they have like performance data, like not just the data that you're getting from here, but overlapping points scored, if it's a lineman, like blocks, like whatever, so you can actually kind of correlate, right? Well, when's this person going to peak? When does this person perform? Actually taking all that information together. I assume that stuff you would be able to kind of bring in and kind of make some not assumptions, but draw conclusions for the strength conditioning team.
Yeah, that's something we're actually exploring. And unfortunately, at the subscription level that East Stroudsburg has for this system, we don't have that necessary detail to relate it 100%. But I have done my homework, and at some higher subscription tiers for Catapult, you actually get a output that looks like a field with a line that shows exactly where the player went. So, with that, I would love to work with that data set for one, to be able to show the actual outcomes on a given play on the data. So, say
I would love
post a block,
because I would love to see that, especially in like a game like basketball, right, where you have a lot of games, and you look at the NBA and they talk about players resting too much or whatever it may be. Like your type of information could actually. Does that make sense? Is it more than just a gut reaction saying this guy needs a rest? Is there actually some numbers behind it, which I think is very, very cool.
And that's actually something that we've produced for East Stroudsburg. So we set something up called a acute to chronic workload ratio, which looks at a player's total workload over the past, 3 weeks and compares it to how they did today. And it is a measure of injury prevention. So we want to ensure that player didn't work double as hard today as they did on average in the past 2 weeks, because that is a major spike in their workload in their bodies, right? So we keep an eye on that and we look very closely at it to ensure that nobody's going way over the top on a given practice, because that opens up for injuries for the rest of the week and the game coming up.
Yeah. I saw you did a post the other day talking about like your golf game as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of people watching who are going to watch this, like looking for that data information about their golf swing and how to, I don't know anything about golf. I'm not going to pretend to use any here. I'm going to stay in my lane.
No, yeah. So I've been, I love golf over, I guess you could say, the last couple of years. I've gotten very, very into it. Now I'm at the point where I feel like my progress was getting a little stagnant, right? I wasn't getting significantly better, even though I was practicing a ton. And I wanted to figure out why. So I am now approaching it as a data problem rather than just a look and feel problem. So I go to a golf simulator that actually exports data out to me. With my practice session, it'll give me all of the various data points as well as a video of myself swinging, so I can then correlate the numbers that I'm seeing from the output to my actual video and see, what I might be doing that's leading to those numbers and data points that put me in the woods or in the sand or whatever it might be. So I have been keeping a very, very close eye on that as of late. and am going to be creating a dashboard for myself on my golf swing and tracking certain things and certain outcomes. So I know when that ball goes in the tree, it's because I did this, and let's not do that anymore. That's the goal. Of course, it's never going to be perfect, but any progress is good progress with the golf.
That's awesome. That's awesome. My friend here was making I was dying to make an appearance. So you can wave. He's a little upset. It's nap time. So
there we go. We got to get some data on that.
Yeah, I get some data.
Yeah. I think so. I mean, it sounds like there really isn't anything that's not a data problem, right? It seems like anything can be applied, and it's really just a matter of what data are you collecting, and how you're organizing it, and what decisions you're making based on that. Would that be accurate to say?
Correct. Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome.
And what's the one question that someone should be asking themselves if they're asking themselves this, they should reach out to you?
Yeah. Cool. I think I go back to that. I think or I feel for sure. But it's really about, are you staying up? Are you restless at night because you just don't know what to do? Right? Or is the unknown stressing you out to the point up? It's stressful. It's all over your mind all day, every day. What we do is we just uncover the real information to alleviate that stress, and then take action based on what we're seeing to drive the business forward and to reduce that stress for the business owner.
Awesome.
I'm sure there's a lot of business owners out there that hear that and say, listen, if you could take some of my stress, I certainly appreciate it. So,
yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Let's figure out how much stress you have first, and then how do we get rid of it?
Yep. I know, Ali, that's your space as well. So I know working with you, you make sure that the business owner is working on the business rather than in the business. And that is so important. I really resonate with that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I focus a lot on, making sure they have a clear vision of where they want to go with the business. So it's like, are you thinking about growing? Are you thinking about scaling? Or even thinking about exiting, right? And I think that's a whole other topic that we can get into in terms of, we've said it many times on this series. You are going to exit your business at some point. How you exit that business is entirely dependent upon the foundation that you set up. I think the data that you're working with, the information that you're working with, and what are the tools and the experts and people that you're surrounding yourself with. And so, having good information. A lot of business owners, when they get very romantic, very nostalgic, very emotionally attached to their business when they're thinking about exiting or even selling. And it's like, well, I think it's worth this, or I feel like I should be, making more on this deal than I actually am. But with the data that you are able to help them organize and get clarity around, it really helps them sort of understand, like, no, this is how, somebody who wants to buy your business, this is how they're looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? This is what you need to be factoring into your decision making, and as you plot forward, as you move forward, right, they're going to want to know how productive your team is, or if you're going to be attached to it, what can they rely on you for? But being able to have access to all of the different information and the data and the financials, all of that is what's going to make the difference between a business that is kind of DOA, or is going to be valuable enough to purchase from someone or pass on to the next person who wants to take it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
cool.
I thank you, Mike. This has been extremely insightful. I really appreciate it. And thank you, Ali.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Frank, and Mike. Of course, this was such an awesome. Like I said, I think there's a lot of opportunities for me to definitely refer you business, bring you in, and we didn't even get into all the payroll and HR stuff that Frank does. I mean, that's huge for anyone in the C-suite who needs to be able to make those decisions. So, if you're watching this, definitely reach out to any of us. If you have any questions about what it is that you want to accomplish with your business, what do you need to be looking at, what are the concerns or things that you need to consider. But yeah, this has been a great conversation. So.
Absolutely agreed. And we can even schedule a round 2 to get into some more HR data. I do have a lot of
Yeah.
good examples of that. So
That would be fantastic. That would be great.
excellent. Well, I really
Awesome.
appreciate you guys having me on today. This was great.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
All right.
All right. Well, take care, everyone. We'll see you next week. I believe that is the 4th of March. Be on the lookout for the announcement of our next guest and our topic. And of course, if you have anything that you want to hear from us and want us to cover, feel free to message Frank or I, and we'll be able to incorporate that into the next one. So, take care.